Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this is a watch that was launched back in 2015. The Omega Constellation Globemaster became the first Omega watch to be certified as a master chronometer. It's everything the COSC was, but then some more on top of that. It also marked the full-time return of a pi dial constellation to the Omega Constellation Collection. There's a lot going on here, so let's break it down starting on the outside. The bezel is fluted in ultra-hard tungsten. The case is steel. The watch is 39 millimeters in diameter. In terms of thickness, I measure this watch at a relatively reasonable 12.9 millimeters thick, so in that regard, it will fit fairly easily underneath a cuff. It's bigger than you think from end link to end link on the bracelet. 52.4 millimeters, but if you put it on a strap, the actual lug-to-lug span here is 47 millimeters, and it's got a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Like I said, on this integrated bracelet, the watch does wear bigger because it's broader across the wrist. Whenever you got something that's 52 plus across the wrist, I've got to recommend against wearing it on a wrist smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. My wrist here is 16, and I think you'd agree that if this were on a strap, it would be an easy call for a wrist as small as 14, but on the bracelet, I'm going to say 15 and up. So mine is 16. You're getting a good look down the barrel here. Cuff shot, like I said, thinner than you think for a modern tri-level Omega coaxial, so 12.9, and it will fit underneath the cuff, and then over the top, where you can see that the lugs are clearly inboard of the edge of my wrist, but the bracelet splays out a little bit more. What's fascinating about the Constellation is that it was clearly designed in the first half of the 2010s for a 2015 release, mostly portrayed on straps. Omega didn't really shout out the fact that it was an integrated bracelet steel sports watch back when this watch debuted in the middle of the 2010s, but these days, with everyone obsessed over integrated bracelet sports watches, this is probably the best one available at a reasonable price, hiding in plain sight, simply because of the number of features. The bracelet is a handsome piece. You can see it tapers down. Everything is satin finished, though you can see there's a little polished bevel and profile for detail. Many screw-fixed removable links, so you will be able to finely tune the sizing. You see the use of ceramic pin snaps inside the double deployant clasp to ensure that the tolerances remain snappy over time. It is a sequential close. You can see one side after the other, and then twin trigger release like a sports watch clasp, so you have to press both triggers to pop it open. Rolling around the case, it may not look like a sports watch in every regard, but if I told you it's 100 meters water resistant, it's on a bracelet, it's automatic winding, and it's really well loomed, you might say, Tim, that sounds an awful lot like a sports watch, and you would not be wrong. The case is fascinating because it's neither a round case nor a tonneau. It's sort of in between, maybe a cushion profile, but we've got satinated flanks, satinated lug hoods, a little bit of a rounded end to the lug profile, and then this bevel that runs side to side. The outer face of the tungsten bezel is polished, and then you have coining on the top. You have the Omega logo on the crown, which, as I mentioned, is push down, but we're still 100 meters. We have this lovely metallic blue dial with facets, and so it's a lot like the 1950s pie pan style Constellation dials. That's what they were nicknamed. But from 1982 forward, the Omega Manhattan style, or the Griffin Claw Constellation, became a runaway success, first in the West and then later and most enduringly in the East. Well, these days, most Western collectors have more nostalgia for the Connies of the 50s and the 60s, whereas the Griffin Claw is still very popular in Asia. So to make the Pi Pan a regular member of the Constellation collection that's dominated by the Griffin Claw, the Globemaster name was introduced. And so we have these faceted dial profiles with the metallic blue center. We have a little star, as well as the image of the observatory on the back, to remind you that the original Constellations were flagship pieces and they were observatory certified chronometers. The watch does feature a time zone function, so you can see the watch is still ticking, minute hand not moving, seconds hand not stopped. I can jump the date forward or backwards depending on which way I'm going across the international date line. And then I pull the crown out again, I can stop the seconds hand, and I can synchronize to a reference time if I wish to do so. Around back, this was the debut of the 8900. 8900 is the Metas or Master chronometer version of the old 8500. So basic tech specs are still the same. Bidirectional automatic winding, twin barrels, 39 joules, 25,200 vibration per hour, beat rate, time zone, hour, hacking seconds, 60-hour power reserve, tri-level coaxial escapement, a free sprung balance with a full balance bridge for shock resistance, and then that silicon hairspring along with an anti-magnetic balance staff, balance, and escapement allow this watch to meet one of the criterions, or I should say criteria, of the METAS standard. Now, METAS is the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology, and any company that meets the standard can certify a master chronometer, so it's not like something Omega made up and just bestowed upon itself like the Patek Philippe seal. Tudor is now certifying master chronometers, so this is a real open standard for those that can meet the standard. So what sets it apart? Well, I mentioned magnetism. Tested to over 15,000 Gauss or 1.5 Tesla, it is an enormous magnetic flux, and as a result, this watch is effectively amagnetic. Also tested 6-position chronometry as a fully cased-up watch. Remember, COSC has 5 positions as a bare movement. This meets the COSC, but then it goes beyond, both in terms of the tested positions and the cased-up nature of the movement when tested. Also, durability, water resistance, winding efficiency, power reserve, all of that goes into making a master chronometer. And one of the reasons the Globemaster was so slow to market after it was announced to great acclaim was that building the master chronometer movements required a new factory, new SOPs. And so it was a slow process, but it is here now as possibly the best integrated bracelet steel sports watch that nobody is talking about. Much more than a dress watch, this is an all-arounder. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.